Hello everyone, my name is Garrett, and this is a great day to learn something new.
So let's do that together. My name is Gabe. Welcome to
Studio Classroom. All right, friends, it's great to have you with us. Let's get started with our Talk About It question. It is, what parts of your childhood do you think will influence you for the rest of your life?
This is a great question. It's always a good idea to reflect on your childhood and how it has influenced you to make you the person that you are today. I enjoy singing, and one reason is because my mom loves singing. She's a good singer. She has a beautiful voice. Her mom was an opera singer, but basically, she would get our family together to sing, and she taught us how to sing in different harmonies as well. And so I've been in choirs, from high school to university, and I love singing today. It will always be an important part of my life.
Gabe, I love that answer. I could give so many different ones. I think for me, it's a love of learning languages. My family lived in Europe when I was a kid, and I got to learn a few different languages from a very young age, and I still love it today. Friends, try to answer that yourself as we get started with today's lesson. This one is called Carrie Underwood. We're going to learn about this woman in today's lesson. Let's get started.
Carrie Underwood. From a small town to the big stage. Carrie Underwood grew up on a farm in Chakota, Oklahoma, an unexpected place to find a future celebrity. And were it not for her family and community there, she likely would never have reached her current success.
We all love a great story of someone who grew up in a very small town, but made it big and famous. And that definitely is true of the star of our article today. Her name is Carrie Underwood.
So we read here, from a small town to the big stage. And friends, whether you're giving a speech or writing something, it is often a good idea to use contrasting words like small and big, right? She went from a small town to going on a big stage.
Right, and she was on a big stage. She is a performer and a singer. Carrie Underwood grew up on a farm in Chakota, Oklahoma, an unexpected place to find a future celebrity.
Well, there are a lot of unexpected places where celebrities come from, right? But it's always interesting, as you said, to kind of dig up their past a little bit and find out their origin story. Speaking of origins, we often use the phrase grow up to talk about how someone experienced childhood, right? So this means to live through childhood and become an adult. You grew up, we often say, I grew up somewhere, or I grew up doing something as a habit.
Right. I would say I grew up for part of my childhood in Europe. You can use a similar phrase to talk about your childhood. And we also used another good word in that sentence, the word unexpected.
Unexpected. This means not planned or predicted, or you can even use that word expected. You didn't expect it to happen.
For example, a surprise party might be an unexpected gift from your friends.
All right, so nobody could have expected or, imagined that Carrie Underwood was from Chakota, Oklahoma, just because nobody else has really heard of Chakota, Oklahoma. Perhaps she even made this place famous. I don't know.
I certainly have never heard of it before. No, I don't know all that much about Oklahoma. We continue, and were it not for her family and community there, she likely would never have reached her current success.
Well, let's take a look at that very useful phrase there, were it not for. Another way to say this is if it hadn't been for something or someone. For example, were it not for his help, I would have failed. In other words, if he didn't help me, I would have failed.
Yeah, if one thing weren't true, another thing probably also wouldn't be true. So she got a lot of help from family and community, and that has led to her current success.
Current. What is current? This is something that is happening now or at this time. I read an article about the current weather problems. Garrett, when you were in high school or perhaps university, did you ever have to get up and talk about current events in front of your class?
I don't think we did that all that often.
You didn't.
I remember talking about history a lot, but not too much about current events.
Yeah, in my government class in high school, that was one of the assignments. I forget if it was weekly or maybe a couple of times a month, but we had to find an article from a newspaper, analyze it, and share our thoughts and opinions in front of the whole class. We called it current events.
All right, so yes, current is what is happening right now. And what is current for us? Well, we're going to watch and read our next reading.
Carrie Underwood. Underwood discovered a love for singing in her church choir, and her parents supported this passion in many ways. For example, her mother made many of her costumes for shows by hand. Underwood sang her first solo in church around the age of 6 or 7, and although the experience was scary, she also found joy in it.
Carrie Underwood is today a famous singer, but how did she get started with this deep love?
Well, she was singing basically from a very young age. We read here, Underwood discovered a love for singing in her church choir, and her parents supported this passion in many ways. Discover here. All right, well, discover could mean to find out or learn something for the first time. And Underwood discovered a love for singing. That means she found out that she actually really loved singing.
Right, and it would be hard to discover that if you never tried it. We can also say she discovered a new way to solve the math problem by trying out some different methods.
All right, what have you discovered recently? Maybe you discovered a really good restaurant and you want to share the news with your friends. So she discovered she had a love for singing. She loved singing because she joined her church choir. As I shared before, I have participated in many choirs in my lifetime. I really enjoy singing. I don't necessarily need to sing a solo. I like singing just as part of the choir. I like trying to figure out what a good harmony might be for the melody.
Well, Gabe, I'll leave the singing to you then. It is not something that I love all that much, but Carrie Underwood certainly does. And her parents supported that passion in many ways. Let's talk about supporting someone.
Okay, when you're supporting someone, that means you're helping or giving strength to somebody or even something. For example, his friends supported him during those hard times.
Exactly. So she got a lot of help and support. For example, her mother made many of her costumes for her shows by hand.
By hand. When you do something by hand, that means you're doing it or making it using hands, not machines. She made this card by hand just for you. And I think that when people make things by hand, Garrett, there's kind of an extra feeling of care and love that goes into it, right? When you get something that was made by hand, it just feels extra special.
Absolutely. And yes, this usually means you're just using your hands, but I think in the case of something like clothes, you might use machines and still call it by hand. It's just not coming from a big factory.
That's a really great point. And I think that's what's happening with Carrie Underwood and her mom here. Her mom was making these costumes by hand. Underwood sang her first solo in church around the age of 6 or 7, so at a very young age. I mentioned before that I don't need to sing a solo. In fact, it's probably not a good idea for me to be the one singing a solo. I enjoy just singing with the choir. But what is a solo, Garrett?
Well, I believe, especially if we're talking about a choir, it's a time when the whole choir is not singing together. One person is chosen to give some special performance, maybe as a part of a song or one song in a bigger show.
That's right. I often think about it, especially if you're in a choir, that most of the song or much of the song is done with the whole group, but then there is a certain part where someone steps out and sings alone. So they're singing a solo. So she sang her first solo around the age of 6 or 7, and although the experience was scary, she also found joy in it.
And that's important. If you're going to be a performer, you need to get over those scary experiences and really embrace the performance.
That's right. Of course, when you're doing something for the first time, especially if it's something in front of a lot of other people, it can be scary. You're going to feel nervous. But if you also feel that you kind of enjoy it and you want to maybe improve, then maybe that's the right path for you. Well, we need to continue with our info cloud. Let's do that right now.
Carrie Underwood. Underwood's life changed when she competed on season 4 of American Idol, a singing competition. Underwood was so nervous about performing on a national TV show that she contemplated backing out of her audition. But her parents urged her to go, and she was accepted into the show. In an interview, Underwood disclosed, "Every time I had to sing in front of the judges, I'd get nervous the way I did in church that first time. Then I'd say a prayer and leave it in God's hands."
All right, so we know Carrie Underwood got started singing at a very young age, but what exactly was her big break?
Yeah, what is her big break, right? When did things really change for her? We read here, Underwood's life changed when she competed on season 4 of American Idol, a singing competition. Let's take a look at that phrase, to compete on something. This means to take part in a contest or a challenge, maybe on a TV program.
Right, so someone might compete on a cooking show as well. Those are quite popular. Now, I know growing up, I watched a lot of American Idol with my parents and got to see Carrie Underwood on that show.
So you saw Carrie Underwood when she was just making it to the big screen, basically.
Exactly.
I think I maybe started watching American Idol, or I saw the first season of American Idol because my roommates in university were really into it. It is quite an interesting show. So, this is where she got her big break. We read here, Underwood was so nervous about performing on a national TV show that she contemplated backing out of her audition. Well, I completely understand. It's something that you really want to do, but you know that it's going to be in front of a lot of people. A lot of people are going to see this. There's going to be a lot of opinions, and so you're going to get super nervous.
You might even want to back out. If you back out of something, it means you decide not to do something that you previously planned. Maybe you already promised you were going to do it.
Yeah, so backing out is not physically taking a step backward. This is a figurative phrase. For example, Tom is thinking of backing out of the debate. He originally planned to do it, but now he doesn't really want to. He's backing out.
Right. Well, Carrie Underwood did not back out of the competition. Her parents urged her to go, and she was accepted into the show.
All right, they urged her to do something. This means they strongly encouraged her to do something. For example, I urged my friend to talk to the teacher about the problem in class.
All right, she was accepted onto the show. She was allowed to go to the next round. And in an interview, Underwood disclosed this quote, "Every time I had to sing in front of the judges, I'd get nervous the way I did in church that first time."
Let's take a look at this word, disclosed. This means she shared secret or private information, or perhaps information that wasn't shared before. For example, she disclosed her plans to move to another country.
Exactly. You might hear this phrase describing things that people share in something like an interview. People might share information that's a little more behind the scenes.
That's right, which kind of makes that certain interview or that particular interview unique and stand out. It's always nice when people disclose this kind of new information. So, Garrett, I don't know about you. I can really understand Carrie Underwood and how she felt. Like, even though she's been doing something for such a long time, because each new time is also important to her, she feels nervous all over again.
Right. And I think it's true. Even if you love going on stage or performing, that doesn't mean you won't get nervous or a little scared in future times. It's all about still going out there and trying your best.
And I think the important thing to think about is there something about this experience or this skill that you really enjoy and want to develop? Then keep at it, friends. Don't give up. We're going to experience nervousness all the time, right? Or at different times in life. Well, right now it's time for us to continue with today's fun fact. All right, friends, as we finish today's lesson, I had a question about that last sentence from our lesson, Garrett. It says, I'd say a prayer and leave it in God's hands. So we know that Carrie Underwood grew up in the church, so she believes in God. What does it mean when someone says, I'm just going to leave it in God's hands?
Well, sometimes when you use that phrase, you're not necessarily talking about the teachings of the Bible. You're saying that there are certain things that you're not in control of. You can do some things to prepare, but in the end, the outcome, you'll just have to see what happens.
And I think that's how a lot of people feel, and it's not a bad mindset to have. Like Garrett said, you should do what you can to prepare for the thing you're going to do, especially if it involves a certain skill, something that you want to share with other people. But really, you're not in control of the results. None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. All we can do is leave things in God's hands in many situations. Well, friends, that is all the time that we have for today. We have more to learn tomorrow, but my name is Gabe.
And my name is Garrett. We'll see you again next time. That's right here on
Studio Classroom.